And welcome to the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We begin with breaking news. A brand new court filing just released. Special counsel Robert Mueller's team slamming former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn for lying to the FBI about his conversations with the Russian ambassador, and the suggestion from Flynn's lawyers that Flynn only lied because he was caught off guard when two FBI agents approached him. The special counsel laying out in the sentencing memo response, quote, "A sitting national security advisor, former head of an intelligence agency, retired lieutenant general and 33-year veteran of the armed forces, knows he should not lie to federal agents. He does not need to be warned. It is a crime to lie to federal agents, to know the importance of telling them the truth." The special counsel team also emphasizing that before meeting with the FBI agents, Flynn had already been lying about his conversations with the Russian ambassador for weeks. Lying to the Washington Post, lying to Vice President Pence, lying to Chief of Staff Priebus, lying to Press Secretary Spicer. He was, quote, committed to his false story. CNN's Pamela Brown joins me now. And Pamela, Mueller's team taking a dig back at Flynn here.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. The special counsel punching back at Michael Flynn's lawyer's assertion that the former national security advisor wasn't appropriately warned about the repercussions of lying to the FBI. In this new filing just released, Mueller's team says Flynn chose to lie weeks before the FBI interviewed him by claiming he did not discuss sanctions with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Mueller's team making the case his false statements were, quote, voluntary and intentional, and noted that the FBI gave him multiple opportunities in their interview with him to correct his false statements, and he only did so once the FBI used the exact language Flynn had used in his conversation with Kislyak from that phone call. Now, while the filing notes the FBI didn't think Flynn was being intentionally deceptive, it does say he should know better than to lie to the FBI, and that is a crime, and that he shouldn't have to be warned about it. What struck out to me, Jake, is that the documents also say Flynn told then Deputy Director Andy McCabe over the phone just before the FBI interview that McCabe probably knew what he said in the conversation with Kislyak. So it's unclear why Flynn would then proceed to make false statements in his FBI interview if he thought they knew the truth and what he actually said.
Yeah, very bizarre. So much bizarre about this lie from Flynn. And Pamela, some stunning new details also in here about the interactions involved, including an appearance by President Trump.
Yeah, that's right. The filings provide colorful details, Jake, from the day Flynn was interviewed by the FBI in his office. The White House didn't seem to take notice that the FBI was there to interview him. And at one point, they even walked by President Trump together as he was discussing art placement in the White House. But Flynn chose to not introduce the agents to him or anyone else. So no one in the White House seemed to take notice this was happening. Now, the interviewing agent's impression of Flynn in these documents was that he was relaxed and jocular, as well as bright, but not profoundly sophisticated. That's a direct quote. And the agent even noted that Flynn was so talkative that the agents wondered whether he didn't have more important things to do as the national security advisor. And at one point, Jake, the documents say when the FBI told Acting Attorney General Sally Yates that Flynn would be interviewed, she was pissed, but it didn't explain why that was. So while these filings certainly provide many new insights and a rare inside look behind the scenes, there are still many redactions and many unanswered questions, Jake.
Number one unanswered question, of course, and we still don't know why. Why did he lie about this? An incoming national security advisor is, of course, allowed to talk to the Russian ambassador. And
right. And I just, on that note, what is sort of peculiar here and raises questions is why did he lie? But that the FBI initially, Jake, didn't seem to think that he was being intentionally deceptive. It said he didn't parse his words, he didn't hesitate. They didn't think that he was being intentionally deceptive. So then what happened after that? Why did the feds decide to go after him after that? And as we know, he did plead guilty to lying to the FBI. So that's also sort of a strange piece of this story.
All right, very interesting. Pamela Brown, thanks so much. Let's talk about this with my experts. I guess one of the biggest questions I have is Mueller had already said that they want to give him the lowest end of the scale when it comes to punishment, which means potentially no jail time at all. Then his lawyers do this. And Mueller still, in this document, in the response, is still saying we still recommend on the lowest end of the scale as long as Flynn remains repentant for what he did. Why would the lawyers even do this then? I mean,
Flynn's lawyers, they probably overplayed their hand a bit here. I think they were trying to compare him to Papadopoulos and others who had counsel there, the idea being he's kind of, an innocent lamb in some way. And with this particular Judge Emmett Sullivan, I don't think that would fly no matter what, let alone under these circumstances. So I think the idea was, listen, be lenient with him because he isn't as bad as the others. And then there was this paragraph in 302, the FBI's memorialization of the actual interview that suggests that maybe they thought about warning him but didn't. And then buzz about entrapment happens. We're not even close to entrapment. That requires not only inducement by the government to commit a crime, but also a lack of predisposition to commit a crime. And here we have not only Mr. Flynn making misrepresentations publicly, but we also know he made misrepresentations on his filing forms with respect to his communications and contact with Turkey. So this is not a guy, for whatever reason, after 3 decades of service, has a problem with not telling a lie.
And Senator Turner, one of the things that I thought was interesting reading this, they talk about then Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, talking about how they really did everything they could to have it so that he wasn't lying. So that when he said he didn't remember something that he said, he and McCabe and the other FBI guys would use the exact language that Flynn had used in his conversation with the Russian ambassador so as to refresh his memory, get him to say what was truthful. And Flynn still didn't correct his false statements. And I thought to myself, I don't think the FBI does that for most people.
Right, they don't. I mean, his positioning gave him that, his career of having had credibility really, I think, gave them in this investigation to try to get him to tell the truth. But if you're lying in the beginning, you'll be lying in the end. And this is very indicative of all the president's men so far that have been fleshed out in terms of this, that they are absolutely, they lie. And it's really unfortunate that he would go down this path, but Mueller made it very clear that you were not set up, that you knew exactly what you were doing, that you lied to the media, you lied to the transition team, you lied to the vice president-elect. You were lying, and you knew exactly what you were doing. So all of the president's men so far have been caught in lies.
And that remains the big mystery. Why? What is he hiding? Why? And why do we still not know?
I mean, it's clear he thought he could get away with it, or he wouldn't have done it. And so, but why is the million-dollar question right now? But I thought it was interesting to the extent that Mueller went into the fact, like, not only should you know better because of X, Y, Z, he also said, there's a line in there that said Flynn was asked, do you want, the White House counsel to sit in? He's like, no, we're good. And so just the level of detail that's in this document is really illuminating. For those of us, playing at home.
Well, and let's think about like the broader context in which this is all happening, which is as more and more information is coming out regarding the Mueller investigation, as well as some of these side investigations with the Southern District of New York and Michael Cohen, there's more and more doubt being placed out there. For perhaps folks maybe a year and a half ago, that Fox News polling a year and a half ago showed a majority of voters didn't really think that the Trump campaign had colluded with Russia. But that majority has now shrunken over time as more and more people now respond to that same poll question and go, I don't know. There hasn't been a dramatic increase in people saying, yeah, I think collusion definitely happened. But out in the public, there's more and more, yeah, I don't know, which is kind of what we're saying about why would Flynn have lied. There's just still these big question marks floating in the air, and this just adds to that.
And we should add that but the president hesitated in firing him. It was only when Mike Pence, it was very clear that he had lied to Mike Pence that the president felt compelled to let him go.
When it was public.
When it was public, exactly.
When it was public that he had lied to Pence.
Yeah, and he makes Pence look foolish.
Arrogance, Jake, I think, and thinking you're above the law in some ways. His positioning in some ways throughout the years in government, I think, gave him that false sense that he is above it all.
This is the man who started to lock her up.
Right, I mean.
Well, and one he lied about, the conversations around sanctions, I think, gets to potential motive around all of the lies that we're seeing across so many people in connection with this investigation. Why was so much covered up if it was okay?
That's right.
If there was a quid pro quo, if there was some kind of deal between the Trump team and the Russians, listen, we'll do something for you if you do something for us. That might be a reason to not be honest about the sanctions piece. I also want to make one other point about a number of these filings, not just this one, but also what was filed in the Southern District of New York with respect to Mr. Cohen, which is it seems like the Justice Department is using these filings as a speaking point to the American public. Like, listen, we've been under assault as
Yes.
somehow, corrupt and not with the president, and that these aren't real crimes. And it's really amazing to see them use this almost like their own bully pulpit to explain, listen, no, this is the facts and this is the law, and we're doing our job.
Mueller says this was a serious crime that Flynn committed.